Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I continue bringing you the story of Hoai and Tusan, and everything that is gradually becoming clear like a consequence that Tusan's ex-husband's family must now face. Amid days that seemed peaceful, when everything around them was slowly settling into a more stable rhythm, life quietly split into two completely different directions, without noise, without warning, yet enough for one to feel that everything was changing little by little. Tusan, after everything she had been through, was no longer the girl who used to hide herself in sadness, no longer someone who kept looking back at old memories and hurting herself. The wounds were still there, but the way she faced them had changed significantly. She no longer resisted her emotions, nor tried to run away from them. Instead, she learned to accept, to let things pass more naturally. She began to slow down her life, not in a vague or aimless way, but in a conscious, intentional way. She started to observe more, to feel more of the small things that once seemed insignificant but carried a very real sense of presence. Every morning, when gentle sunlight touched the small garden, she would step outside, taking care of each vegetable bed, each chayote vine climbing its trellis. The young chayotes, just big enough, were gently picked, without hurry, without rush, as if every movement carried a sense of appreciation. Every meal she prepared with her own hands was no longer just about cooking. It became a way for her to reconnect with herself, a moment where she focused on each ingredient, each step of preparation, each aroma spreading through that small space. Nothing needed to be overly complicated or perfect, yet every dish carried its own warmth, a feeling she had never truly noticed before. And then, within those seemingly quiet days, something new began to form. Not just a passing thought, not a fleeting inspiration, but a clear desire, growing stronger within her. Tusan began reading cooking books, not for entertainment, not to pass time, but with a seriousness she could feel herself. She spent time learning each recipe, not skipping a single detail. From selecting ingredients, preparing them, to balancing flavors, everything was carefully noted and remembered. Those pages were no longer just words. They became a doorway to a new world, where she could see a path she might walk. In her mind now, there was no longer confusion, no longer unanswered questions like before. Instead, there was a clear dream, a dream concrete enough for her to picture every day. She wanted to become a great chef, not just someone who cooks well, but someone who cooks with all her emotions, with all her sincerity. She wanted to create dishes that not only fill the stomach, but also warm the heart. And further than that, she wanted one day to open her own restaurant, a place not too big, not overly luxurious, but enough to hold everything she had learned, experienced, and worked for. A place where every dish carries a story, and every person who walks in can feel its authenticity. And on that journey, she was no longer alone. Hoai was always by her side, not through grand words, not through flashy gestures, but through actions that were quiet, real, and steady enough to be felt. He never pushed her to go faster, never placed pressure on her. He simply stayed whenever she needed him. He found books for her, choosing ones that suited what she was learning. He listened as she talked about each recipe, each dish she wanted to try, even when they were small things. He patiently stood beside her, allowing her to experience and learn on her own, yet always ready to support her when needed. Hoai understood that some wounds cannot heal overnight. Some pain cannot disappear with just a few comforting words. But with enough patience, enough love, and enough time, everything will gradually become lighter. That quiet presence, not loud, not showy, slowly brought Tusan back. Not back to who she once was, but back in a stronger, more mature way. She began to smile more. Not forced smiles, but genuine ones from within. She began to believe in the future again. No longer afraid, no longer hesitant like before, but with a belief strong enough to keep moving forward. A future where old wounds no longer control her, memories no longer hold her back, but a new journey where she can truly be herself. And there, Hai is always by her side, not leaving, not letting go, and never letting her face anything alone again. But in another place, life no longer carried the same sense of calm that Tieu San was slowly finding again. There were no gentle mornings, no quiet moments to slow down and breathe. Instead, there was a heavy atmosphere, as if everything was being weighed down by something no one had expected. Tieu San's ex-husband's family was falling into a major crisis. A crisis that did not arrive loudly, did not announce itself with any clear warning, but silently built up, then suddenly erupted, leaving everyone unable to react in time. The one who discovered everything was Tieu San's ex-husband himself. The moment he learned the truth, it was not just a passing surprise. It was a real shock. A feeling as if everything in front of him suddenly began to collapse. He was stunned to find out that, for quite some time, his mother had secretly borrowed money from Trang, his younger sister, amounting to 50 million VND. Not a small amount. But what made him lose his composure did not stop there. Behind that loan was another truth, even heavier. She had taken a total of 150 million VND to invest in a business with an acquaintance. A decision made with hope. The hope of earning more income. The hope of easing financial pressure. The hope that things would gradually improve. But that hope was placed in the wrong person. The person she trusted, the one she believed could help turn things around, had disappeared. No explanation, no message, no trace to follow. All that remained was silence. A silence that, the more one thought about it, the emptier it felt. The money was almost completely gone. No chance of getting it back. No way to fix things at that moment. That truth, when revealed, was not just information. It was a weight pressing down on everyone. Tieu San's ex-husband could no longer stay calm. His emotions were no longer clear or singular, but a mix of many things. Shock that he had no idea this had been happening. Shock that everything had gone so far before he even realized. Worry. Worry about the lost money. Worry about the debts that were starting to surface. Worry about the consequences ahead, which he knew would not be easy to face. And above all, pressure. A pressure so heavy it felt like he was being pushed into a corner. Because he realized his mother had not only invested the money, she had also borrowed from outside, with high interest, just to cover what had already been lost. Everything was no longer just a single bad decision. It had become a chain of problems. The more he tried to untangle it, the more complicated it became. The more he thought, the less he could see a way out. Meanwhile, his own situation was not easy either. He was still carrying daily expenses, still dealing with ongoing installment payments, still trying to keep his life from falling apart. But now, all of that had suddenly become heavier than ever, as if all the pressure had come crashing down at once, leaving him no space to breathe, no time to think clearly. There was anger, a strong anger he could not suppress. Anger that everything had happened without him knowing. Anger that decisions had been made without any discussion. There was disappointment too. A quiet disappointment. Disappointment that trust had been misplaced. Disappointment that things which could have been prevented were not stopped in time. But beneath all of those emotions, it was not just anger, not just blame. There was something else, heavier, more silent. It was helplessness. The feeling of realizing that, even if he wanted to change things, he could not go back to the beginning. Even if he wanted to fix it, he didn't know where to start. All he could do was stand there, in the middle of a pile of overwhelming problems, and try to find a way not to be dragged too far under. After that, the mother and son went to the authorities to file a report. It was not an easy decision. It was a step taken when they had no other choice left. When everything had gone too far. When what could be resolved on their own was no longer possible. Seeking outside intervention became the last hope they could hold on to. But, from the very first moments, things did not unfold the way they had hoped. There was no certainty. No immediate answers. No sign that the situation could be resolved quickly. The atmosphere there did not bring any sense of relief. On the contrary, it made them realize that the situation was far more complicated than they had imagined. Questions were asked. Information was requested. Every small detail was brought up. But the deeper it went, the more silent they became. Because what they had was too little. No documents. No written proof of any transaction. No contracts. No formal confirmation. Everything that had happened existed only in verbal agreements. Face-to-face exchanges. Trust placed in someone else. Without any clear binding. No evidence. Nothing to prove how the money had been transferred. No records. No specific documentation. No clear trail to follow. Everything seemed to vanish, as if it had never existed. No witnesses. No one who could step forward to confirm. No one who could clarify what had happened. No third party to support their case. All that remained were their words. What they could recount. What they could remember. What they believed had happened. But that alone was not enough. Not enough to proceed. Not enough to verify. Not enough to take the next steps. That reality did not need to be spoken out loud. Yet it was clear in every response they received. Like an invisible boundary, preventing them from moving forward. Their hope, already fragile, now became even smaller. But not completely gone. Because amidst all those difficulties, there was still one path left. A single path they could continue on. They had to find others who had fallen into the same situation. People who had also trusted, also given, also lost. Only when more people came forward, only when individual stories were connected together, would things begin to become clearer. Evidence would no longer be completely absent, but would be formed from everything they could gather together, from details that seemed scattered, but when placed side by side, would create a fuller picture, a fragile hope, but still a hope, because otherwise, if things remained as they were now, the outcome was almost certain. That money would never be recovered, not because they didn't want to, but because they lacked the means to do so. And that was what made everything feel heavier than ever. When a person not only loses what they had, but must also face the possibility that they may never have a chance to get it back again. On one side is a journey of starting over. Not an easy beginning. Not something that can change instantly just by making a decision. But a long process, built from small steps, quiet efforts, days of persistence without giving up. Tusan does not have a paved path. No natural advantages. What she has is only herself. Her past experiences. The wounds that have not fully healed. But, instead of letting those things hold her back, she chooses to move forward. Not rushing. Not forcing. Just little by little. Rebuilding her life in her own way. Every small thing she does each day. Every shift in her thinking. Every emotion that becomes lighter. All of them are the first bricks. Forming a new future. A future built by her own effort. Not relying on luck, not waiting for miracles, but through real effort, accumulated over time. On the other side are the consequences of wrong decisions. They do not come immediately. They do not appear clearly from the beginning. They build up silently, and at some point, they erupt, bringing with them pressure, worry, losses no one ever wished for, from a trust placed in the wrong person. From a decision made without enough caution. From things that once seemed like they could change life for the better. Becoming the very reason everything turns heavier. It is not only about losing money, but losing stability. Losing the sense of security. losing the fragile piece that once existed. Two lives, two directions. They do not intersect. They are not the same. But when placed side by side, they reveal something clearly. That life does not always decide where you end up. It is not circumstances, not what has happened, but choices that shape the outcome. Tusan has been through dark days. Days when everything seemed to have no way out. Days when emotions were so heavy, she did not know where to begin. But she did not stop. She did not let the past become a reason to give up. She chose to move forward, slowly, with difficulty, but still moving. And on the other side, just one act of trusting the wrong person caused everything to collapse. Not because they did not try, not because they did not hope for something better, but because one wrong choice brought too many consequences. And when everything broke apart, there was no way to return to the beginning. The difference is not in where they started, but in how each person chooses when standing at a crossroads. And perhaps, among everything that has happened, the most meaningful thing in the story is not the loss, not the hardship, but the presence of something else, something strong enough to change everything. That is love, arriving at the right time. Hai cannot change Tusan's past. He cannot erase what she has been through, cannot make her pain disappear instantly. But he is there, by her side, in the present, with patience, with understanding, with the way he chooses to walk with her. Instead of standing apart, he gives her a present warm enough, so she no longer feels lost. A present where each passing day is no longer something to endure, but something that heals. And more than that, he gives her a future, worth hoping for. Not something distant, not grand promises, but a steady feeling that she is no longer alone. A place where she can truly be herself, without forcing strength, without hiding her emotions, without carrying everything alone, but having someone always beside her, always listening, always ready to keep walking with her. And sometimes, in this life, we do not need something grand. We do not need everything. We just need one person like that. Someone patient enough to stay. Someone sincere enough not to leave. Then no matter how many difficulties lie ahead, no matter how many challenges, we can still move forward. Not because the road becomes easier, but because we no longer have to walk it alone. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story. If you felt something from the journey of Tusan and Hai, don't forget to follow the channel to continue along with the next developments. And please leave your comments, because every thought, every feeling you share, is a meaningful part that makes the story more complete.
Xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người video về câu chuyện của Lý Hoaica và Hùng nha mọi người. Bây giờ thì mình vẫn đang làm video, chưa có hoàn thành và mình đang cố gắng để hoàn thành sớm nhất có thể để có thể đưa đến cho mọi người những video hay và hấp dẫn. Cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều đã luôn theo dõi và ủng hộ cho kênh của mình nhé. Tạm biệt mọi người. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo nha.